Advanced Warfare is the greatest Call of Duty game of all time. Releasing On the Tale of Call of Duty Ghosts, one of the most universally despised COD titles to date, Advanced Warfare launched on November 4th, 2014, accompanied by the tagline, "Power Changes Everything." This game sought to revolutionize the Call of Duty series and propel it into new heights, literally, with its exosuits and advanced movement. Power changes everything, but perhaps too much was changed. The release of Advanced Warfare would spark an uprising among a large portion of the fanbase, a clamoring for a return to the boots-on-the-ground gameplay and modern or historical settings that Call of Duty fans knew and had come to love over the years. This outrage would persist as the next two COD games with advanced movement and futuristic settings were released, culminating with Infinite Warfare's reveal trailer becoming one of the most disliked videos in YouTube history. Of course, not everyone was upset with these changes, and in fact, many people such as myself did and continue to very much enjoy the game. However, the bad press was there, and big names in the community who publicly voiced their disdain for the game only added more fuel to the fire and contributed to the mindset that COD games with advanced movement were automatically bad games. With all this being said, Advanced Warfare's new movement system, its incredibly unique maps and guns, and its highly customizable aspects make it a distinctively enjoyable Call of Duty experience, one that has never been replicated in every Call of Duty title prior to its release and each subsequent game leading up to the present day. Okay, so maybe the title of this video and everything I've said thus far are a bit of a hyperbole. Advanced Warfare most likely does not provide the greatest overall Call of Duty experience. I would give that praise to its successor, Black Ops 3. Simply put, the combination of BO3's campaign, multiplayer, zombies, its plethora of additional modes, and surplus of content make it the most complete COD in which the whole experience is greater than the sum of its parts. One of Advanced Warfare's parts, however, multiplayer, is greater than that of the whole, and let's be honest, most of the people playing Call of Duty are there for the multiplayer. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not dissing the very prevalent zombies community, or people who only buy Call of Duty for the campaign, who maybe there's one of in the entire world, but a lot of my time spent playing Call of Duty is on zombies, and I'll always play the campaign at least once in every game. But let's be real, Call of Duty is primarily made for the multiplayer crowd, and there is no Call of Duty if there is no multiplayer. Multiplayer, and now Warzone by extension, in every COD game sees the most amount of content, updates, and support compared to any other modes the game may have. This is because multiplayer obviously generates the most revenue for Activision due to the fact that it attracts the widest group of players and they're able to cater to the least common denominator. Black Ops 4 released without a campaign and may have underperformed in the eyes of Activision, but still grossed $500 million within 3 days of its launch. And keep in mind, this was a game competing heavily with the very popular Fortnite at the time. Modern Warfare 2019 released with the lackluster and, to be frank, very strange Spec Ops mode, but the game still broke franchise sales records. A Call of Duty game can release with the lack of or poor additional modes and still be pretty well off, even if a portion of the community is alienated. However, a mainline Call of Duty title released without multiplayer would almost certainly be the worst selling COD game of all time, because the majority of players and potential buyers would end up completely avoiding the game. Advanced Warfare's campaign is fun. If you haven't played it and you generally enjoy Call of Duty campaigns, I'd recommend it. However, it is ultimately forgettable, and it pales into comparison to the stories told throughout the Black Ops and Modern Warfare series. Jonathan Irons is no Makarov or Menendez, but the casting of Kevin Spacey as the main antagonist did age like wine or milk, I don't know. Similarly, Exo Zombies can be a good time, but I don't know anyone who has Descent, for example, in their top 5 zombies maps of all time.
What? No, I'm literally looking at your tier list. Descent from right now is your number 5 top 5 zombies map. Is that literally, so if you made a top 5 zombies map list, would you put Descent at number 5 like IGN did?
But seriously, Exo Zombies isn't as bad as a lot of people say, and the transition from the finale of Exo Survival into Exo Zombies was actually pretty cool, but it is a shame that there was no free on-disc zombies map. With this being said, there's no time like the present to begin talking about what makes Advanced Warfare's multiplayer so great, and what would be more appropriate than starting it off by talking about the new movement and gameplay systems that were introduced in this game. Prior to Advanced Warfare's release, every Call of Duty multiplayer follows similar structure in terms of the player's movement capabilities. Of course, you could walk, run, or sprint in any direction you wanted. You could crouch, go prone, mantle some objects, jump, and climb up ladders. And eventually you could even dolphin dive, which evolved into sliding, first seen in Ghost, which is again Advanced Warfare's immediate predecessor. Basic first-person shooter movement. Advanced Warfare adds an entirely new suite of movement in the form of X movement, which blows the lid off of the previous movement restrictions and allows you to move in more ways and faster than ever before. You can now boost jump up, which allows you to gain a quick height advantage or quickly scale a building or other vertical parts of the maps. While in midair with the boost jump, you can boost dash forward, backwards, or left and right. This is a quick movement which pushes you towards whichever direction you choose. This is a useful mechanic which can allow you to dodge bullets, get closer to an enemy, or quickly get behind cover. It can also be used on the ground without boost jumping, but this is much less effective than it being done in the air. You also have the option to do a melee attack in the air called an exo slam, which will quickly boost you down and slam you into the ground. If an enemy player is close enough to where you land, you will instantly kill them. Finally, the slide mechanic returns from Ghost, but is now enhanced to allow you to go quicker and further. And of course, you can still crouch, go prone, mantle objects, and do everything you previously could before exosuits. You can also sprint faster and even hover using exo abilities, but I'll touch more on that later. Exo movement has a very short cooldown rate and increases the speed and flow of the game tenfold. At a fundamental level, these new movement options significantly increase the skill gap of the game. Some people might hear this and be instantly turned off to that concept. Some Call of Duty fans may prefer a less skill-based experience where you simply run around like a chicken with your head cut off, and that's perfectly fine. A less skill-based experience is pretty much what the Call of Duty franchise was built on, and I can't fault anyone for preferring how the old games played. However, what I will say is that in my opinion, exo movement creates a much better and more natural and fun skill gap than an artificial and shoehorned in skill-based matchmaking system. I couldn't find any conclusive information on if Advanced Warfare did have skill-based matchmaking and how prevalent it really was if it did, but in newer Call of Duty titles, skill-based matchmaking is certainly much more noticeable and problematic. And every time I see the countless complaints about skill-based matchmaking in social media and YouTube comment sections, which many times I do relate to myself, I always look back to Advanced Warfare and how the exo movement added a refined and fun skill gap to the Call of Duty formula. Mastering exo movement, like anything, takes time, but when you learn it and get good at it, you can chain your moves together and enter an extremely fun sort of flow state where you're moving around the map rapidly and killing every enemy in your sight. In every encounter you have to take into account the arsenal of movement abilities your opponent has, as do they for you. A skilled player can predict where their opponent may boost jump or dash and react accordingly by staying one step ahead of them and getting the kill. In boost on the ground COD games, there is much less of that prediction aspect, and it is usually pretty clear how someone will move based on their limited abilities. The movement in these games usually gets as complex as drop shotting or jump shotting. Getting kills usually just comes down to reaction time and making sure you hit your shots, which is fine, but with advanced movement, you not only have to focus more on predicting how your opponent will move, but you also have to put in more effort to actually hit your shots. Exo movements are fast, and even with aim assist, it takes skill to track players who are moving so rapidly in any given direction. Keeping all of this in mind, each kill feels more satisfying and well earned. This comparison may sound strange at first, but hear me out. Similar to how Fortnite works, you have somewhat of a bailout mechanic when you start getting shot at. Fortnite works well and is insanely popular because of its billy mechanic, which allows you to defend yourself from getting killed instantly. I think that exo movement is somewhat comparable to the Fortnite billy mechanic in the regard that it allows you to take action to defend yourself rather than feeling like a deer caught in the headlights when you go under fire. You can start moving erratically and outmaneuver your enemy to not only save your own life but also retaliate and kill the aggressor. Exo movement also greatly helps out weed out campers. Not only are you constantly encouraged by the game mechanics to be on the move, but killing someone sitting behind a box or in a corner is as easy as boosting up and shooting them from above. I think this is a somewhat underrated advantage of exo movement, and it is much easier to camp on boost on the ground COD games. This is just another factor that increases the overall skill gap of Advanced Warfare. Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare's advanced movement systems introduced more fluid mechanics, which were more controlled and based on a gauge that could be used for a variety of movements before running out and needing to be recharged over a short period of time. You could also wall run in these games similar to Titanfall. Many people consider these movement changes an improvement, and to be perfectly honest, I'd have to disagree. Advanced Warfare's movement simply felt more deliberate and powerful. BO3 and IW allowed you to move freely while boosting, and you had full control of your speed and trajectory. In Advanced Warfare, if you chose to make an exo movement, it would always be at full speed and you had to commit to it. But at the end of the day, it does just come down to personal preference. Advanced Warfare provides a more chaotic, less predictable, and faster exo movement experience, while BO3 and Infinite Warfare offer a slightly slower, linear, and more controllable movement system. But I ultimately do prefer the chaos of Advanced Warfare. On a side note, I'm also not a huge fan of wall running, as it seemed kind of forced in to make these games feel more like Titanfall, and it can become irrelevant and underutilized on many maps, especially small scale or interior based maps. In terms of the general gameplay of Advanced Warfare, other than saying that exo movement greatly improves it, the game runs smooth and shooting and movement feels snappy and responsive. I don't have too much to say about that because it's Call of Duty, and you all know the standards that these games usually live up to in terms of raw gunplay. Many COD fans say that Advanced Warfare's movement system strayed too far from the norm and it isn't what Call of Duty is about, but I vehemently disagree. Exo movement embodies what makes Call of Duty great and what it stands for: fast-paced, arcadey, and fun first-person shooter action. Now that I've covered the movement of Advanced Warfare, I think it's time to talk about the two things that will make or break any COD game, regardless of its movement systems: the weapons and the maps. and it is my pleasure to say that Advanced Warfare takes care of both of these components very, very well. Starting off with the weapons, like I said in my intro, they are very unique. Given that this game takes place in the year 2054, Sledgehammer was able to take as many creative liberties as they wanted when designing the weapons. Some of the guns in the game are real, such as the AK-12 for example, and other guns are based on real guns but have different aesthetics and names to fit with the futuristic setting of the game. Additionally, more real guns and classic guns were added in later updates. The AK-47, STG, and MP40 come to mind off the top of my head. And then there are guns that are completely out there and fully commit to the setting that they take place in. The realistic ballistic firearms are accompanied by laser rifles, shotguns, and LMGs. The AE-4 and Repulsor are simple laser guns which you have to reload, but if that's not for you, the EM-1 is a heavy laser weapon which shoots a concentrated beam that will only be stopped by the gun overheating. My favorite laser weapon is the Ohm, which transforms between an LMG and a shotgun at the click of a button. The versatility and satisfaction of getting kills with the shotgun mode made this gun a very memorable weapon for me. Then there's the TAC-19 shotgun, which doesn't shoot anything at all, but creates a blast of compressed air that's strong enough to kill someone in a single shot. If snipers are more up your alley, you have the classic Morse bolt action, but if you're not a confident shot, you can take the NA-45 for a spin. This gun holds 2 rounds, the first being a primer and the second acting as a catalyst to the primer. If you place your 2 shots close enough together, an explosion ensues. Or if you want a sniper in your pocket, the RW1 secondary handgun provides a single shot weapon which will one-hit kill at close range. One of the most unique guns in the game is the XMG, which consists of 2 machine guns mounted on each one of your arms. You can run around with them like normal, or you can mount up and go stationary with them, resulting in a much tighter recoil spread. And of course, you can always have some fun with a riot shield, explosive crossbow, or grenade launcher. There are many other weapons that I didn't mention that are insanely fun to use, but for the sake of time, I'll sum it all up. Advanced Warfare's more traditional guns are accompanied by some of the most unique, memorable, and creative weapons ever seen in a Call of Duty title. I respect Sledgehammer for taking some risks on their first endeavor into COD and making these outlandish weapons. Beyond that, every gun in the game is effective or at the very least serviceable. I can't think of a gun in Advanced Warfare that I strictly went out of my way to avoid using, and I look back with fond memories using a variety of weapons not just for the camo grind, but just because each and every one of them are fun to play with. Something else I'll quickly lump into the weapons category is exo abilities and exo launchers, aka grenades. Exo abilities, which I mentioned earlier, are new additions of class creation which give you unique abilities. Overclock lets you run faster, Exo Hover lets you, hover, Exo Cloak makes you translucent and hard to see, Exo Stim gives a health boost, and the list goes on. These can be compared to the field upgrades of newer Call of Duty titles and are fun but somewhat lackluster additions. They don't affect the gameplay too much and I rarely even bother equipping them, other than the Overclock because I'm a rusher at heart and it only serves to further speed up the game. However, a DLC Exo ability which was only available in a game mode playlist completely changed the game and made it one of my all-time favorite modes in any COD game. This was the grappling hook, which allowed you to hook onto any surface on the map and launch you towards it. Combined with exosuits, the grappling hook allowed for insane movement around the maps and it was too much fun. And as a bonus, you could even kill people with the grappling hook. Exo launchers are the grenades of Advanced Warfare and are another feature I didn't often use, but to be fair, I rarely use grenades in any COD game. There's the usual frags, stuns, and Semtex's hair, but some cool new ideas are introduced such as the threat grenade, which takes players through walls, and tracking drones, which follows enemies. But other than that, there's not too much to say about them. Now, before I go any further, I can't beat around the bush any longer. You simply can't talk about Advanced Warfare's guns without addressing the very large elephant in the room: supply drops and weapon variants. Supply drops are extremely controversial and are ultimately detrimental to Advanced Warfare as a whole. I'm in no way going to try to sit here and defend the predatory practices of Activision and the egregious pay-to-win supply drops. I just think it's a shame that such a good game is soured by this anti-consumer system. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Advanced Warfare's supply drop system, which I'm sure very few of you are, basically, each gun has several variants which range in rarity, and each variant has unique stats and aspects, but generally, the highest rarity guns, known as the elites, were the best. The kick was that these variants could only be earned from supply drops, and as you can imagine, elite guns were much harder to pull. And of course, supply drops are filled with other cosmetic items to make the overall pool of items you can get larger, not to mention the fact that you are able to get duplicates. The Bell 27 Obsidian Steed and AS-1 Speakeasy are infamous examples of overpowered variants which not everyone had access to based on their luck with supply drops. You can get normal supply drops periodically by just playing the game, and advanced supply drops, which give you better odds at getting higher rarity items, are rewarded at levels 20, 30, 40 after prestiging, and finally hitting those aforementioned levels again in each prestige. Of course, you can speed up the process of trying to get these variants by purchasing advanced supply drops with real money, which is certainly exactly what Activision had in mind when they created this system. But even when you do that, there is no guarantee on what you will get. Again, I am in no way advocating for this system, but just speaking from personal experience, I never spent a dime on supply drops and was eventually able to earn pretty much every variant I wanted just by playing the game and leveling up. But if you're someone who doesn't like to prestige, doesn't have a lot of time to play the game, or otherwise just has some bad luck that differs from my anecdotal experience, I imagine you would have a very hard time getting everything you want without spending money, and I understand how frustrating that is. The variants are definitely fun and provide more versatility and options to the gameplay, but the way you go about getting them is extremely flawed. Future COD titles improved on the supply drop system and made it more feasible to get the items you actually wanted until eventually removing them entirely. But there's no excuse for a $60 game with a $50 season pass and additional microtransactions such as camo packs to have this kind of monetization system. It is truly ridiculous, and like I said before, it sours what I otherwise think is a great game in every aspect. Sadly, this was likely strictly an Activision decision, and Sledgehammer was forced to implement it into their game. With that being said, let's get back on a positive note and talk about the maps. Advanced Warfare's maps share a lot of the same praise I had for its weapons. They're unique, fun to play on, and there's none that I would explicitly go out of my way to avoid. My favorite part about Advanced Warfare's maps are that many feature dynamic events or mechanics. You're never going to see an entire skyscraper level like in Battlefield 4 Siege of Shanghai, but there's still a lot of fun to be had with this smaller scale evolution. Biolab is an Atlas facility which features moving canisters of Manicore, the bioweapon from the campaign, that can be shot and explode to damage players, and halfway through the match, a helicopter brings in an entirely new building with a mounted minigun on the top floor. Defender takes place at an air defense base below the Golden Gate Bridge and is disrupted by a tsunami which kills everyone in its path and changes the flow, literally, of an entire side of the map. Recovery, which has one of my personal favorite dynamic events, takes place at a volcano observatory. As rocks and volcanic debris start flying through the air, you have to make your way through the blast doors before they close. Entering these blast doors reveals an entirely new portion of the map where the second half of the match takes place. Nothing beats the chaos of trying to get to the doors and the engagements you partake in on the way. The DLC maps featured several more of these events, such as Sideshow's Clown Bombs, Drift's Avalanche, and Perplex's ever-moving apartment modules. Again, there's a lot more examples, and I could sit here and talk about them all day, but I'll go ahead and move on. These events add unique flair to maps and completely change the dynamics of them and how they flow throughout the match. They also further provide to the general chaotic experience of Advanced Warfare and make the maps more memorable by giving them features and events that are wholly unique and can't be found on any other map. I don't know why future Call of Duty titles largely excluded dynamic events, as they are small scale and relatively inoffensive enough that even if you're not a fan of them, they should be pretty harmless. Having every map be entirely static can get boring and repetitive, and I wish Call of Duty would go back to including dynamic events in their maps. But that seems unlikely at this point, as they're no longer competing with Battlefield so heavily in their Levolution mechanics. Many of Advanced Warfare's maps follow a familiar 3-lane structure. The 3-lane map structure is tried and true to the Call of Duty experience and ensures consistent engagements and action throughout a match. Of course, with the addition of exo movement, it becomes easier to cut across lanes, and you can get around the maps much quicker than before. In Boots on the Ground COD games, you could get across lanes through doors and other openings or open areas, but with exo movement on some maps, you're able to jump across the lanes with ease at any point you want. I think a good example of a map like this is the map Green Band, as it's a very rigid 3-lane map, but its open design features walls and gaps that can be scaled and jumped over to move across lanes. This creates a unique flow where you can expect to find enemies at every turn. Some people may simply write this off as bad design and say that it completely ruins the flow of the game. However, Advanced Warfare is in some ways the antithesis of a normal flow. The game thrives on chaos, and I think its uniquely chaotic flow is what makes it so special and memorable. And even so, this idea is juxtaposed by the fact that some maps, such as Riot for example, do follow a more traditional flow because the central prison has walls that cannot be crossed with exo movement, which forces players into more linear paths. I think Advanced Warfare strikes a good balance in the designs of its maps and provides a lot of variety and different experience, depending on how open the maps are and how easy they are to get across with exo movement. It provides a little something for everybody depending on the map that you play. Some maps, most notably Sideshow and Instinct, are completely wide open and follow a very loose 3-lane format. This makes them a dream to play on for players using snipers and other long-range weapons. However, due to the fact that you have exo movement at your disposal, these maps aren't as annoying as one might think. Maps like these function much worse on Boots on the Ground COD games because, again, when you get shot in an open area, you're like a deer caught in the headlights and you can't do anything to protect yourself. Stonehaven from Ghost and Wasteland from Modern Warfare 2 are two examples of hated Call of Duty maps due to their size and openness. However, these maps probably wouldn't have been half bad in Advanced Warfare. These kinds of maps tend to be larger and take much more time to traverse with normal movement compared to when you have exo movement. I'm going to go ahead and pick on Modern Warfare 2019 and say that many of its maps suffered from this issue. For better or for worse, in my opinion for worse, many Modern Warfare 2019 maps ditched the 3-lane format and had open and more sporadic designs. Due to the fact that you didn't have exo movement and there being so many windows and small areas that you could could get shot from, the game became a frustrating mess of running around, dying without even knowing where you got shot from, and repeating that process over and over. Ghosts also had the issue of its maps being so large that traversing them quickly became a repetitive chore. Advanced Warfare's open layout maps work because exo movement allows you to protect yourself from getting shot in the open and makes the map so much more manageable to navigate. And of course, exo movement lends itself very well to more vertical maps, which was something previously sparsely seen in the franchise. Pretty much every map in Advanced Warfare contains higher areas or ledges that can only be accessed by boost jumping, but some maps like Perplex, Skyrise, Atlas Gorge, Ascend, and Comeback really lean into this idea and feature many levels of verticality. Many previous Call of Duty maps did have vertical elements, but never to the like seen in Advanced Warfare, and getting to elevated positions could become a monotonous task without the quickness of boost jumping. Verticality is another aspect of Advanced Warfare's maps that make them stand out and more interesting to play on. And like I mentioned before, exo movement allows you to move around the maps at a rapid pace. I love this about the game, and it especially makes objective-based game modes even more fun as you can quickly hop between the objectives and be more efficient. In my opinion, Call of Duty is fundamentally meant to be a fast-paced shooter, and nothing accentuates this idea better than boost jumping around mostly small to mid-sized maps with a couple large and open ones sprinkled in for good measure. One thing I will say is that Advanced Warfare lacks any original, instant classic, extremely iconic maps such as Nuketown, Rust, Terminal, etc., etc. While pretty much every map is definitely solid and a good time to play on, none really stick out and fit into that legendary map status. But in general, there really hasn't been a map like this on some of Black Ops 2's maps, and I'd take a COD game with an abundance of solid, well-designed maps rather than one that has a couple iconic maps but very bad maps mixed in with it any day of the week. And I'm not saying that's what BO2 is, but that's what many recent COD games have been. Or you have Modern Warfare 2019 where none of the maps are good, and that's a joke, but not really. Piccadilly Circus and Euphrates Bridge single-handedly ruined my initial experience with the game, and hot take, I don't think that Modern Warfare 2019 had a single quote-unquote good launch map. Advanced Warfare, however, does feature mostly original maps with the exception of Skyrise and Atlas Gorge, which I mentioned earlier while talking about verticality. As of late, it seems that the Call of Duty devs have lost a stride in terms of creating original maps. At the end of its life cycle, Modern Warfare 2019 had 8 remakes and Black Ops Cold War had a staggering 11. I stopped playing Vanguard when it had a Dome, Shipment, and Castle remake, and I don't believe any more were added, but most of the game's original maps are nothing to write home about anyways. The last time I played Modern Warfare 2, it already featured a Shoot House remake and yet another Shipment remake, and I'm sure there's more now and more on the way. There's nothing wrong with bringing back some fanfare maps every now and then, but the rate I wish they'd do it now is getting to be somewhat excessive to say the least. Maybe it's due to the fact that DLC maps are now free and Activision or the studios don't want to put as much effort into them, but the amount of remakes in modern COD games is truly staggering. While the Modern Warfare, Cold War, and Vanguard remakes are, for the most part, direct ports with little to no changes besides the obvious graphical updates, Skyrise and Atlas Gorge from Advanced Warfare provide entirely new aesthetics and experiences while still staying true to the original maps that they're based on. Skyrise is a remake of High Rise from Modern Warfare 2 and has a slick new futuristic design. Exo movement allows you to quickly traverse the crane and rooftop areas which were previously much more slowly accessed through jumping and doing parkour. Atlas Gorge is a reimagined version of COD 4's Pipeline, which isn't as iconic as High Rise but is still a fun map. Again, exo movement can be used to quickly scale the buildings and enter the hanging pipes. Advanced Warfare's maps are mostly original, but even when they do rarely return to fan favorite locations, the maps are updated for the new movement mechanics and actually fit the theme of the game. Nothing says 1980s Cold War era like a futuristic hypertrain from 2025, right, Treyarch? Finally, I want to take this time to talk about Advanced Warfare Scorestreaks, which was a system first introduced in Black Ops 2, dropped in Ghost, and then reintroduced in Advanced Warfare. It's a somewhat controversial system, so props to Modern Warfare 2 for giving you a choice in the matter, but it rewards the player with points based on performing actions such as getting kills and assists, securing objectives, destroying enemy score streaks, and several other gameplay actions. These points build up and earn you score streaks, which increase in cost depending on their quality, and if you die, your points go back to 0. This structure abandons the previous kill streak system, which only rewarded you based on your successive kills. Like I said, this change is somewhat controversial, as some players feel like they're being shafted when they go on a large kill streak and still don't have enough points to earn some of their better score streaks. However, I think the good of score streaks outweighs the bad. Ultimately, it encourages players to play the objective more and help out the team by destroying enemy score streaks, while also making it less infuriating when you get your kills stolen, as assists still give you points towards your score streaks. Fans of kill streaks may also be happy to know that the game has a usable nuke, the DNA bomb, which can be acquired by going on a 30-player kill streak. Advanced Warfare has some very fun and unique score streaks. Of course, you have the classic UAV, care package, sentry gun, missile strike, and gunship. But some of the fun new additions include a remote-controlled aerial drone, an orbital laser cannon, and a system hack. Some maps also have their own score streaks, which can only be earned through care packages on that map, which further adds to the character and uniqueness of the maps. I haven't even touched on the fact that each score streak is customizable and can be equipped with upgrades that add to the prowess of the streak, but I'll get to that in the next section. Advanced Warfare's maps, weapons, and score streaks make the entire experience of the game. Sledgehammer could have simply taken the easy road and implemented mostly pre-existing guns and maps or familiar map layouts, but they decided to take the initiative to create so many new and unique experiences. I keep saying this over and over again, but I can't express how much I enjoy the guns and maps of this game, and I do think that a lot of them are criminally underrated and underappreciated in the Call of Duty community, due to the negative perception many people had and continue to have about Advanced Warfare. You really do just need to play the game to fully understand what I'm talking about, and if you never give it a fair shake, I promise you you're missing out on a lot of fun. Advanced Warfare has customization systems to the likes of which were never seen before in Call of Duty, and for some reason never seen again. Now, this is slightly opinionated, of course, as future Call of Duty titles introduce things such as custom paint jobs, which were removed, and operators, but I think Advanced Warfare is the best customization in the series. Like I promised, I need to talk about Scorestreak customization. For reasons that are truly beyond me, Scorestreak customization was introduced in Advanced Warfare, seen just one more time in Infinite Warfare, this time being added in a later update and lagged behind supply drops, and then completely dropped from the series, never to be seen again. It makes absolutely zero sense as Scorestreak customization is super fun and adds to the replayability of the game. Advanced Warfare features Scorestreak modules which can be added to any scorestreak. These modules or upgrades increase the total score of the streak while either beefing it up or even fundamentally changing how the streak works. You can add 1, 2, or 3 upgrades to a score streak, which increases the cost to earn it accordingly. You can make your UAVs last longer and get what essentially amounts to wall hacks. You can get better odds on your care package or turn them into traps. You can make the system hack disable exosuits and flash the enemy's screen. You can make your bombing run drop care packages instead of bombs. You can make your warbird fully AI controlled and cloaked in the sky, and you can turn the already over-the-top Paladin warship into an ultra-killing flying fortress. Advanced Warfare's scorestreak upgrades can turn some of the most basic or worst scorestreaks into some of the best in the game, provided you have the skill to still earn them with their increased cost. On the topic of scorestreaks, now's a good time to talk about Advanced Warfare's created class system. Advanced Warfare introduces the Pick 13 system, which is the evolution of Black Ops 2's Pick 10 system. Pick 13 is less restrictive than Pick 10 while still allowing for a lot of customization. This structure allows you to build your class by choosing 13 items from categories including primary weapons, secondaries, attachments, perks, wildcards, exo abilities, and exo launchers. The wildcards allow you to do things such as equip a 4 score streak, use 2 primary weapons, or equip more attachments. The perks are mostly familiar from previous titles and are in general a step down from Ghost's expansive perk system. Advanced Warfare's Pick 13 system allows for a wide range of class variety and makes you decide what's most important to you and what you want to prioritize in your class. If you want more perks or score streaks, you're going to have to make sacrifices in the weapon and attachments department, and vice versa. While many previous and current Call of Duty games railroad you into having to have a certain amount of everything, Advanced Warfare lets you decide how you want to build your class and what you think will give you the biggest advantage. Some people prefer the traditional class creation system, and we can agree to disagree, but the flexibility of the Pick 13 system allows for unmatched creativity and tailoring to how you want to play the game. It also restricts everyone from being able to fully kit out their guns with overpowered attachments without having to make sacrifices in any other areas. One of the most integral parts of a Call of Duty game is that of its gun customization. The attachments in Advanced Warfare, again, are similar to the perks and are mostly familiar and uninspired. However, the fundamentals are all here, and you can improve your gun by equipping the usual lot of sights, grips, mags, etc. Some of the new attachments, such as the parabolic microphone and tracker, are pretty much useless and not worth a class slot. One of Advanced Warfare's best and most underrated features is the shooting range. From the created class menu, you can seamlessly enter a virtual firing range, which allows you to test your guns on several targets. This is great for trying out attachment combinations and new guns before you enter into a real game, and it's another feature that, for the life of me, I can't figure out why it hasn't become a staple of the series moving forward. But thankfully it is present in Modern Warfare 2. Now, I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here, but one of the things that has become a staple of the series, which I can't stand, is the gunsmith. I know a lot of people love the gunsmith, so I'll try to tread lightly, but in my opinion, the gunsmith needlessly complicates and makes a headache out of gun customization. I much more prefer the basic attachment selection of Advanced Warfare in the older games over the new min-max, every advantage, disadvantage spelled out, and the best meta attachments. Advanced Warfare's attachments each serve a unique purpose which can be spelled out in a short sentence long or less description. Meanwhile, the new system lists the exact ramifications of each attachment to the most minute detail, and it usually just ends up making your gun worse. Hell, in Modern Warfare 2, I would say that most of the attachments are useless and you're better off just never touching a majority of them. Anyways, this wasn't meant to be a gunsmith rant video, so I'll move on, but I think the gunsmith has some good potential that was executed extremely poorly, and I much more prefer Advanced Warfare's attachment system. Of course, you can equip your weapons with several camos either earned by completing challenges or gained from supply drops. There's a couple purchasable camo packs which feature some pretty good looking skins too. The mastered camos of gold, diamond, and royalty look good enough, but are a far cry from the dark matter and other mastered camos we've seen in future games, most notably Black Ops 4, which has some truly crazy camos. Advanced Warfare also doesn't have any of the outlandish variants or mastercraft skins we've seen in recent titles, so weapon customization is overall pretty tame and run of the mill. However, where Advanced Warfare does excel and innovate is in its character customization. Advanced Warfare allows you to select a character and then customize every part of your outfit from head to toe. You can customize your helmet, eyewear, top, loadout, gloves, pants, knee guards, boots, and your exosuit. Ghost introduced character customization for the first time in Call of Duty, and Advanced Warfare took this idea and ran with it. Unfortunately, a lot of the really cool cosmetics are locked behind supply drops, and most players will never be able to look exactly how they want, but that's not to say there isn't still a lot of fun to be had customizing every part of your outfit. One of the unique features of this system is that equipping a full set of a certain uniform will grant you an XP bonus while wearing the whole set. This is a small feature, but adds to the fun of collecting a set and gives you an incentive to want to get more items to complete outfits. Character customization declined immediately in Black Ops 3 with you only being able to choose a body and a headgear, and has now led to the current day where you usually have to outright pay upwards of $20 for one character skin thanks to the success of Fortnite's item shop. A lot of people don't really care about character customization in a first-person shooter game, and that's fair, but you do spend a lot of time looking at your own and other people's characters in the pregame lobbies. And finally, we have to talk about Advanced Warfare's most important customization option, paintball mode. Seriously though, paintball mode actually is a really cool addition and changes the feel of the game while also allowing you to see how badly you missed your shots. Advanced Warfare truly offers one of the most customizable Call of Duty experiences. From the modifiable Scorestreaks to the varied create class system to the extensive character customization, Advanced Warfare lets you create your own experience both gameplay wise and cosmetically speaking. No other Call of Duty game offers this level of customization in each aspect of the game. Well, there you have it, the greatest Call of Duty game of all time, Advanced Warfare. If you were an Advanced Warfare hater, I hope this video changed your mind and inspires you to give the game a second shot. And if you're an Advanced Warfare meat rider like myself, then I hope I represented the game well and explained to the world how we really feel. Seriously though, if you're still with me, I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.